Harrison Price for Monday, June 16th, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center. In this program, a presentation of Bet365. Matt Harrison alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things. Hope everybody had a pleasant weekend.
I hope everybody can view us. I hope this is just a normal technical day and that our shows are on all the platforms as they should be. Mike? Do we have reports? Positive? The world is back in order. So that's the good news. No more Google Cloud issues. Is your mic not working?
My mic is now. Check.
There we go.
There it is.
That one would have been on us, not Google. That would have been us.
Turned my mic off just to clear my throat. Didn't get it back. And I'm like, you see, sitting here talking about how things are going swimmingly.
That was too perfect. Too perfect.
It was unplanned.
Did you authorize that?
That was unplanned.
Okay.
Just perfect.
Love it.
Anyways, I hope everyone had a wonderful Father's Day weekend. Did they spoil you rotten?
It was very nice. No gifts needed. It's all about the experiences on Father's Day, and it was fabulous.
I used to ask my dad, what do you want for Father's Day? Good kids. What do you want for your birthday? Good kids. Christmas, good kids. Well-behaved kids.
At my age, it's just, will you hang around with me? Will you spend time? And I got that. So that's
nice. Yeah. They indulged Dad.
Yes.
Toyota Pacific Dealers poll question today. What are you more excited about next season, the Canucks or the Olympic hockey tournament? And there was news today on that front. Vote Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. So we have gotten the names of the first 6 players on each of the different participating men's hockey teams for the 2026 Milano Cortina Olympics in Italy. Not a huge surprise, I wouldn't say, in a lot of cases, but there are some interesting notes here about some of these countries and the 6 players they have chosen already this far out, 8 months of the Olympics. The Canadian entry will include Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Connor McDavid. West Vancouver Sam Reinhart gets the nod, and that's
maybe
heady company for him, although on the verge of winning a second straight Stanley Cup at 57 goals last year, and Tampa Bay Lightning center Braden Point, who has a couple of cup rings in his own right.
Reinhart was going to make the team for sure.
Yes.
But his inclusion in the original 6 is intriguing for sure. Although, I mean, who's going to be that 6th guy otherwise?
There was a lot of places they could go, but to me, Reinhart was really close to being there if he wasn't. So, so well done to Sam Reinhart. Quinn Hughes, of course, will be part of Team USA and had to miss the Four Nations face-off because of injury. So I'm sure he'll be chomping at the bit to put on the red, white, and blue and play for his country under the rings. As we have known, and this even predates the 2 players, the Vancouver Canucks are a haven for Latvian players. Who could forget Ronald Skinens, one-time
the Latvian locomotive
Price crush. Teddy Bluger, Artur Silovs amongst the 6 Latvian players named.
Like a third of the Latvian name Canuck players. Wow.
Well, you run out of NHLers pretty quick when it comes to Latvia.
Oh, they already did. There's Rodrigo Abels is there.
Also a former Canuck.
Yeah.
And Sweden. And look, I was, when I saw the names starting to roll out this morning, and I saw the Latvians and the Canadians first, I was under no illusions that Elias Paterson would be one of the first 6 Swedes.
Oh, really? You were that confident?
Oh, for sure.
Really?
Well, I mean,
I was not.
Like he finished the Four Nations for them as no better than the third line center, fourth line in terms of minutes played.
Yeah.
So I wasn't anticipating. I mean, Sweden's got.
You weren't anticipating him? No.
Of course
Okay.
not.
Okay.
No, I mean, Sweden has scores of good NHL players. So, no, I didn't suspect that Elias would make the first six. I do expect he will make the team.
Yeah.
His 45 points last season ranked 12th amongst Swedish NHL forwards. So, right on the cusp there.
Low games played, remember, but yeah.
His time on ice at 18 minutes and 40 seconds per game ranked 11th amongst his countrymen in the NHL. So right on the cusp on both metrics.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I get to 7 Swedish forwards quite easily. Willie Nylander and Jesper Bratt on the wing, Lucas Raymond and Philip Forsberg on the wing, Rickard Rakell and Adrian Kempe on the wing. I should say I get to 9 Swedish forwards quite easily.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Eriksson Ek of Minnesota down the middle, Mika Zibanejad in New York, our old friend Elias Lindholm. So when I look at those 9, yeah, I think Elias would be one of the next ones up. Other candidates would include, 2 Carlsons, William in Vegas, Leo in Anaheim amongst the centers.
One fading, one rising.
Yeah, Michael Backlund in Calgary, although he's an older player as well.
Yeah.
Alex Wenberg, Holmstrom and Eklund amongst wingers. But I think Elias Paterson is better than most of those guys, and I suspect that Elias Paterson will be on this club. It's just a question of where he's going to slot in. I mean, look, Elias Pettersson at his best could be the first-line Swedish center. I mean, Eriksson Ek's a very good player, don't get me wrong.
But he's not full skill.
Yeah. Zibanejad is twilight.
Yeah, was at one point.
Lindholm, we know, is not a line driver. Can be a good player.
Not offensive, though. Not a full skill guy either at this point in the proceedings.
So
he was great at the World.
So I think Elias Pettersson is not only going to make the team, but I do suspect there's a world where he's centering one of the top 2 lines and playing with some pretty skilled wingers.
The red carpet is rolled out for him. He just has to walk down it.
That's it.
It's right there for him. But he's got to seize the brass ring. One thing I'll say about Sweden, Canada has been amongst the more, and this is a little bit strange given the depth, but Canada has been far more, I think, open, particularly on the World Championship rosters, and we haven't had an Olympic roster to look at recently. But they're willing to look at young guys, I think, a little bit sooner than the Swedes are. So, the Carlsons, the Eklunds of the world, like Leo Carlsson, do they get those looks, even if they're pretty deserving of it through the first half of the season? Like if Celebrini's, backing up, building off of what he just had, I think there's a good chance Canada brings Macklin Celebrini, instead of a Seth Jarvis, to the fold. But I don't think Sweden's willing to do that as much. I think they default to veteran players that they feel can handle the situation.
Well, they brought Leo Carlsson to the Four Nations. But again, once you get down to beyond the 9th or 10th Swedish forward, you really have a lot of players there who could.
Well, it's either youth or aging guys at that point, right? You have to make that decision. What are you going to do?
Yeah. And Leo Carlsson only got into the one game in the Four Nations. But yeah, Paterson at the Four Nations played 13 minutes and 32 seconds. The Swedish forwards who played less than he did were Elias Lindholm, who played 13 minutes, Victor Arvidsson, who played 10:43, and Gustav Nyquist, who didn't play much at all. So there were 3 Swedish forwards who played less than Pettersson on a per-game basis. Again, Carlsson only played in the one game, although he did play 14-plus minutes that night. So, look, barring a dreadful first couple of months, I think Elias Pettersson is on this team. I think it's a fait accompli.
I think if he's at 2/3 of a point or better, obviously, I think
sure.
he's in on this team.
Yeah,
At half a point per game?
I think even at half a
know.
point per game, I think he's... No, but Blake, he can play an offensive and a defensive game. And when you look at their center iceman, I would just have to think, even if he's not going offensively, you can take him as more of a checking center and feel okay. And not to mention, they may need some offense and at least puck distribution down the middle. Like, there's some pretty good goal scorers amongst the Swedish wingers, right? Like, Nylander, Raymond, Forsberg, Raquel. Like, these are, good NHL goal scorers. So I would anticipate he is going to make the team, but we shall see. As for the poll, I voted the Olympics, and really it's not close in my estimation. And that's not a shot at the Canucks and their expected fortunes in season 25-26. I mean, when they get ready to go in October, yeah, of course I'll be excited for that. But the four nations, which I had no anticipation or expectation that I would feel so strongly about, and then Trump started talking tariffs and 51st states, and we had an incredible geopolitical backdrop to that tournament. I sweated those Canada games like I sweated Canadian Olympic Games. I was 100%
the US
all in,
games.
living
Yes.
and dying with Canada in those two games against the United States. It's Sydney's last hurrah in the red maple leaf. It is Connor McDavid under the Olympic rings for the first time. Not to mention the fact we haven't seen it since Sochi, right? So it's been far too long, 12 years. I am 100% voting the Olympic hockey tournament. I can't wait.
Yeah,
Best on best international hockey. There are few things that I will sit down to watch over that.
I should be able to forecast this better, but as you know, I don't ballyhoo international sports generally much until I'm into them, and then I absolutely get hooked. But it's funny, like in this moment, I guess intellectually I know I'll be into the Olympic hockey tournament, but I can't really feel it.
What's the holdup there? Why isn't the lesson being learned?
I don't know.
You know you're full in once the games get going.
I can't explain
how is
it. I can't explain it. It's funny. I get more excited about soccer ahead of time than I do about hockey, even though my fever is obviously at a higher pitch. Although lately the soccer's been getting close, but
soccer is on the way. But yes.
So I mean, intellectually I want to say the Olympic hockey tournament, but ultimately the NHL is a bigger part of our life. So I'll vote the Canucks season.
All right.
Takes up more time. More investment, more highs, more lows.
It certainly takes up more time, especially if your team goes to the Cup Final.
Yes.
It's June 16th.
Yeah.
We may have 2 games left. It was 82 before all this started.
Yeah. And, hey, I can drive to the games.
Yes, you can.
Maybe in a BZ4X, and I'll know that I'll be zooming right on past you in the HOV lane. I won't have to make the stop for the gas. A 100% electric vehicle, the latest addition to the Toyota electric lineup. Tried, tested, true. Go visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer right now. Take one for a test drive and fall in love, because it's a spectacular car. And right now, up to $5,000 in incentives to purchase. Plus, you can get 0.99% financing over 36 months. ShopToyota.ca.
Our top story today brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, a foolish winery. From Wovertime to overtime to Wovertime again. The Canucks split the first 2 games of the Calder Cup Final in Charlotte against the Checkers, both requiring extra hockey. And this after a fortunate call goes their way in double overtime of Game 1 on Friday. If you didn't see this, it became the talk of the hockey world as we awaited Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. Baby Canucks centerman Ty Mueller wins a draw so cleanly back towards his own net in overtime, double overtime. Artur Silovs wasn't quite ready, and it gets by him for what everybody in the building believes is the game-winning goal. And what a blooper that would have been. Here's how you lost a double overtime game in the finals. The checkers celebrating, their fans celebrating, and then the officials conference. And they wind up waving off the goal. The explanation here, they should not have dropped the puck in the first place. So the checkers are furious. The building is furious. Frankly, this is a very fortunate turn for the baby Canucks, but good reporting from our friend Ben Lipka of the Abbotsford News about the procedure a linesman has to go through before dropping the puck. And it amounts to, and we have it on the screen here for those of you watching, a split-second checklist where the linesman, the four officials, are supposed to quick check on the clocks. The clock right, is it moving, is it stopped? Okay, nets on their moorings. Goalie's ready. Bench is ready. Nobody milling about the bench on the wrong side. They take a quick view of the whole life surface. The media partners, okay, are they ready? Are they back from break? Count the players on each side. Make sure that's good. Make sure the penalty boxes
gates closed.
Yeah, exactly, and all of that. So that split-second checklist was not wholly completed by the officials on the ice. It even appeared as though Archer Silovs was speaking to the referee to his left and not fully aware that the puck was being dropped to his right. So this Canucks would-be own goal to lose game one is waved off, and Danila Klimovich scores the OT winner later in the Stanza's second overtime winning goal here of these Calder Cup playoffs.
In so much in sport, we have seen that what is right in your gut, what feels like the fair and right thing to do, doesn't always get called because of the lack of a procedure to allow that to happen. Like, I would not have been surprised if they call that a goal in that game, because point to the position in the rule book that says that that's not a goal. And there isn't a rule in the rule book that says that's not a goal. But the referees confer and say, yeah, I kind of didn't do my job there. That was unfair. Yep. We're going to redo that.
Good ownership, good accountability, and there is procedure there. I memean, we've all watched enough hockey to see an unfair face-off called back, whistled back. I mean, they don't often. Not often after the face-off is won clearly for an own goal.
Like, not every NBA tip-off is a perfect vertical throw. But only in the extreme cases do they say, no, that was terrible. Let me redo that.
Yep.
But if it's 15% off kilter, they're not redoing it.
Yep.
They
can bring it back and re-jump the ball. And I'll give these officials credit. It's a ballsy call to make when you've got a building going crazy and a team thought the home team thinking they've won, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the easier course of action there is just skate to your dressing rooms and deal with a furious Manny Malhotra in the postgame.
Yeah.
As opposed to ticking off the thousands of people in attendance and the entirety of the home club. So, anyways, they win game one. Artie winds up making 51 saves. Max Sasson, Sammy Blake, Kirill Kudryavtsev, all with 2-point evenings. And then game two yesterday, Charlotte wins in overtime thanks to Jim Benning's nephew, Michael, with the game-winning goal. Bennings continue to haunt the Canucks franchise. Sammy Blais with 2 more points. And Linus Karlsson with his playoff-leading 10th goal of the AHL postseason. Now, all that said, the baby Canucks are really fortunate to be coming home with a split, and not just because of the waved-off own goal. They have been severely outplayed in this series. They are being outshot 96-43. Gave up 42 and 54 shots in these two games.
And shot suppression was what they had been doing so well up until this point in the playoffs.
They put just 13 pucks on net last night. So they're being outshot 96-43 through a couple of games here. I mean, they're getting more than doubled up. The average here is 48 to 21.5 shots on goal. And that led to Manny was just not pleased. He has not approved of the way his team has played these first couple of games, including the discipline. Here's Coach.
Oh, we're obviously not happy with the result. We had opportunities, especially in the overtime, obviously starting with a power play to get the job done, and we didn't. But it comes down to the things we discussed before the game in terms of making sure we stay out of the box, our discipline. Just took far too many undisciplined penalties to be able to be successful.
Although they're outdoing Charlotte on the power play so far in the series. 3 for 10 through 2 games for Abbotsford, 2 for 10 is Charlotte.
Yeah.
PK still doing okay.
Well, and of course their PK was perfect through a large chunk of the postseason run. That has been a sensational part of this hockey club and has dovetailed with what the NHL team did this year in terms of improving its penalty kill unit to number 3 in the National Hockey League. Okay, you mentioned the power plays. It's 10 power plays apiece here, so it's not like they've let them play, quote unquote. Jonathan Lekkerimäki continues to sit. If they're going to blow whistles like this, you got to play the kid, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I see that it's spawned some conspiracy theories that the Canucks aren't playing him because they don't want to injure him because they're about to trade him. I don't think that's it at all.
Which would be procedural if you are far enough down the line on a trade that you think something is going down between now and next week's draft. You wouldn't want to get the player hurt. So, yeah, I mean, there's a sliver of possibility there.
But I think, again, is it a zebra or a horse when you hear the clippity-clop? He was not very good when he was taken out of the lineup. So his deletion from the lineup was pretty clear that it was from performance. Mm-hmm. I think that's the simplest answer.
And if it was a zebra?
Well, color me surprised.
You're getting a selfie with the zebra, right?
There was an escaped zebra somewhere. It was in the news last week.
If it was a horse, okay, so be it.
Yeah.
If it's a zebra,
yeah,
you need that for the gram.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was an escaped zebra?
Last week somewhere, I want to say like Carolina or something, of course. But, yeah, they eventually caught it.
Lassos?
Who knows? I didn't see how extravagant the rescue was. But
they say zebra in Africa?
I do.
Yeah.
It wasn't an escaped yellow dog, though.
No. Game 3 tomorrow at Abbotsford Center, then Game 4 Thursday, and we know that Game 5 on Saturday is going ahead. They go 2-3-2 in the Calder Cup Final.
It's time for you to free some yellow dogs, like some Chase My Tail Pale Ales, and you can free many a dog with the 12-packs that are on special for the month of June. Look for them on sale at your government or private liquor stores.
Frank Saravelli saying that there's an ongoing battle behind the scenes now at Canuck Sports and Entertainment. As you may know, I guess it was last month or the previous month, the Canucks went through a rare statement from the Canucks reporting that Paolo Aquilini, the youngest brother of the 3 Aquilinis, is out, no longer with an ownership stake in Canuck Sports and Entertainment, or I should say soon to divest his stake.
Working on it.
Yeah, so that is something that they're working on, and Saravelli reports it likely won't be done until the start of next season. And, of course, for all you Canucks fans, the question becomes, does that in any way affect hockey operations this summer? And specifically, would there be monies not available to hockey operations because of the expense that Francesco and Roberto, his brother, now must go through in buying out Paolo? Because as we know, these franchises now are really, really expensive, and buying out a 1/3 partner takes a lot of money.
The size of the pizza got a lot bigger in the last 15 years, a lot bigger. And add into the practice facility drama and the added expense, however big that's going to be, somewhere between medium and large, new seats. There's a lot of capital expenditures here. So if you're wondering why your tickets went up in price for next season, exhibits A, B, C, and further laid out for you right there. It's going to be expensive. Yes.
For Paolo.
Yeah, there you go.
So we'll monitor that. I suspect the test there will come July 1st. And do they spend all the money available to them under the cap, with the cap going up some $7 million? Quinn Hughes is attending Fanatics Fest later this week. You're familiar with Fanatics, the sports apparel company?
That gets so much acclaim for their fabulous products.
They're an NHL partner now. I seen that some Canucks fans are fretting this a little bit because Fanatics owner Michael Rubin is a former partner in the New Jersey Devils. He was a partner with Josh Harris and David Blitzer, who own not only the New Jersey Devils, but the Philadelphia 76ers of the NBA. They have some soccer interests as well. Rubin sold his stake in the Devils in 2022, explaining that he wanted to focus on the expansion of Fanatics, and the company has gone
crazy since then.
Further and partnered with the NHL and other sports leagues.
Baseball.
Yeah, that is a we'll put it this way. Canucks Twitter's going to sleuth that out.
Yeah.
Whether there's any there, I don't really know. I don't know if Rubin is close still with Harris and Blitzer. I don't know if there would be any kind of overtures, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, quiet, hushed, corner table conversations about one day going to New Jersey and playing with his brothers.
Do you know who else works for the New Jersey Devils presently and is even closer than Michael Rubin's to Quinn Hughes? His two brothers. There's obvious connections already that are familial, never mind who are arm's length former business associates.
Yeah.
You don't need that to be worried about Quinn Hughes' departure. No. His two brothers are there. If New Jersey Devils management wanted to tamper in any way, shape, or form, they could be, hey, ask your brother what he thinks it'll take.
I don't necessarily think it's corralled to just that, though. I think, if Fanatics wanted to hire an NHL player as the hockey face of their company, right? Is there a big sort of endorsement deal? Is there a big sort of business deal that could come Quinn Hughes' way via this company?
Quinn Hughes is about to be the best defenseman on Team USA at the Olympics.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I mean.
There's reason enough for him to be that anyway.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. He could very well be the face of the U.S. Olympic team next year.
Yep.
Which has some very good players, don't get me wrong, but Quinn Hughes.
Could he be the most informed USA player? You could make that argument, given the season that Austin Matthews just had. You could make the argument he'd be the most informed Team USA player.
Yeah. So we'll see where that goes, if anywhere. Michael Russo in Minnesota and Joe Smith, his colleague, reporting the Marco Rossi market is not as hot as Minnesota expected. They report many teams are lukewarm on Rossi, consider him a plan B at center ice. There's concern that he was used as a fourth-line center in the playoffs. Do note that the Canucks are amongst the most interested. Minnesota wants a player, but may have to settle for futures and would want to trade those futures for center ice help.
Mm-hmm.
So not too dissimilar to a scenario we had talked about with the Vancouver Canucks, which doesn't sound like it's going to come to fruition because it sounds like they are keeping Elias Paterson. I'll give you credit, though, Blake, for the second time in a week here. I thought the Rossi market would be white hot. Just because players at that position, at that age, and that production don't typically come up for trade very often. Alas, it seems like a lot of teams share the concerns the Minnesota Wild had in terms of him as a playoff performer and are looking at these teams in the Cup Final or looking at the teams that have gone further in the Stanley Cup playoffs and, well, in part because there's not a lot of small top two centermen in the league to begin with, but appear as though they're modeling after those teams wanting a bit bigger bodies at center ice.
So let me throw two new other names that David Pagnotta has just thrown out there. And the Islanders have said they're not selling the big names, Horvat and Barzal, but they are willing to part with JG Pajot and Pierre Engvall.
Yeah, no, thank you.
On both? 1 year on JG Pajot.
So
42 points, 79 games last year.
So there would be there was a world when I would have absolutely signed up for Pajot as purely a third-line center.
That was his best season points per game last year.
Was it really?
It was.
He was playing 17 minutes a night, 42 points, 14 goals. But I don't, and a right shot. That's not the droid they're looking for.
It's 1 year, though, right? It's 1 year, and then you're
Yeah.
done. You get him for 1 year.
Yeah, that's R2. They need 3PO.
1 year. 5.2 million, is that what I saw? 5 million. 1 year. You get to walk away from him. Fills the gap. Come on, at the right cost.
Well, okay, tell me what the cost is.
Yeah.
Is it a second-round pick?
Well, yeah, exactly. If it's a second-round pick, I think you do it for
Look,
sure.
Pajot would
That's
appeal
cheaper
to
than
me.
that's cheaper than Pius Suter is
Pa-
in terms of term, right?
Pajot would appeal to me in the flood the position
Yeah.
with quality or quantity and hope quality rises to the top
Yep.
way of doing this. For the moment, I am going to trust and believe they're looking for the higher end true top two center. That may not be available to them.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be available to them because they can't muster the capital to get that player via trade. It may not be available to them because there are so few of those guys available this summer, either on the free agency market or via trade, that other teams fill up and they're left without a chair. So to me, he's if we strike out on July 1st after striking out trying to make a trade at the draft table option.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, and this is crazy talk, can you pull off that trade and a Rossi trade at the same time?
That is crazy talk.
Then you start to be like, again, you're not.
Then you're moving Hedl to the wing for sure.
Or
Then
Heedle's
you're
part of that deal.
Then, or possibly, or then you're buying more time for Atu Ratu if need be. And was it you who were telling me you saw Atu Ratu?
Yeah.
Walking about town or limping about town. He's hurt for the Abbotsford Canucks. And look, Pajot is an upgrade on Bluger. And Pajot, did he kill penalties last year? Again, I know he had earlier.
Oh, he's a very good defensive player.
Yes. That would also make more sense to me if you're looking at, he was the primary forward amongst the Islanders, penalty killers. That would also make more sense to me if Pius Suter is gone.
That's right.
Which I think is most likely the case here, as we said a couple of weeks.
And again, that's the benefit. That might be a wash in terms of points next year, presuming Suter doesn't make another step. So it's a wash in points, and you got 1 year commitment.
Yep. Stanley Cup Final, Edmonton shits the bed in Game 5 at home, loses 5-2, trails the series 3-2. So one loss away from watching the Florida Panthers lift the Stanley Cup for a second straight year against them in the final. Only 4 teams this century have come back from 3-2 down in the Stanley Cup Final. The last one was in 2011. We shall not speak of it again.
No.
But Pittsburgh in 2009, Tampa in 2004, Colorado in 2001. So it doesn't happen all that often. It hasn't happened in an awfully long time. Do you have any hopes for the Oilers left?
I don't like the momentum feel. I know there's no momentum game to game is what they like to say. I should say it's not really about momentum. I just don't like the totality of the work that I've seen from them in that when they have been at their best, Matt, by game, not by period, but by game, they've only then been neck and neck with the Panthers. Like, it's been a coin toss when they've been at their best. That's what I'm most concerned about if I'm an Oiler is, if I'm an Oiler fan, I'm thinking we've got to be at our very best, then we have a chance. So, as we know, when you're taking on a team as good as the Panthers are, being at your best is hard. Yeah. They have a say in how well you look. So I don't love what they're doing right now.
No, the other thing that's coming into clarity for me is just how much the Oilers miss Zach Hyman at this stage of the game. Like, he's a pretty key part of their offensive attack, right?
Well, this year wasn't as much.
Well, but, I mean, he didn't score 60 goals, but yeah. But, the loose pucks, the net front area scoring, he's exceptional at. And there are opportunities there in the net front that aren't going past Bobrovsky. The other thing I'll say is, the off-season additions and how little they helped this year. We're talking Arvidsson and Skinner. That's coming into focus as well. They just need more from some of those guys, and they're not getting it. Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine, I can't believe I'm speaking this sentence, but imagine where they'd be without Corey Perry, Blake. Like, you've got Corey Perry playing an outsized role at his age because you've got a whole bunch of passengers up front.
Well, we're reaching the stage here where we've got, for a long time in the playoffs, in the 90s and aughts, we didn't see a ton of goals. But the muckers, the grinders, the pests really proliferated, and they were the ones that won. We're not there because there's more offense.
Yeah.
But look at the stars of the playoffs right now: Perry, Marchand, and Bennett.
Yep.
Now, some of that is because we have decreased offensive expectations on those players, so when they surpass them, it's notable. But, I mean, they have legitimately been leaders now on their team. 3 guys that annoy the crap out of you.
Yep. The other thing is, let's just all, as hockey fans, hope and pray for a better Game 6.
Mm.
There were 40 shots combined in that game, Blake.
Yeah.
And I watched it at a establishment in Kits, and it was packed. And I don't think there was a moment of buzz or energy that shot through the crowd, except maybe when McDavid scored to make it 3-1 in the third period.
I was watching, family members came home, and I had the Whitecaps game on tilt. It had already occurred, but I was late to it. So I had the Whitecaps game, and somebody's like, why is it we were watching the Whitecaps game? I said, It's a multi-goal lead for Florida, and it was dead silent because it was a road game. And I was I was just kind of done. And so I checked back periodically. I was like, 4-1. Nope. Back to the Whitecaps.
No, we had resolved if it was 3-0 after 40, we were going home.
Yeah.
But it was 2-0, so we hung with it. And then it was 3-0. Of course, Marchand scored again, 2 goals. Bennett scores again. Reinhart scores again. I mean, on and on it goes with that Florida team. Hoping for a better, more entertaining game. So if this is going to be Edmonton's last stand, at least let's go down in a blaze of glory, okay? Connor, Leon, I want to see 5-6 goals. Shoot from everywhere.
We have had those games.
The first couple of games, 3 of the first 4 were outstanding in this series.
Yeah, even game 4, I think both teams were around the 30-shot mark, right? Or over the 30-shot mark. So we have had those games. Got to get back to it.
The PWHL Vancouver team has been very busy here in free agency.
Oh, my goodness.
They have signed center Hannah Miller, wingers Teresa Vanisova and Michaela Cava in free agency. Miller was viewed as the best available center. Vanisova was viewed as the best available left winger. Cava was up there too. And so general manager Kara Gardner-Morey has been true to her pledge. Said we're going to build from the goal out through the expansion draft in the early signing period, and they did just that. Really beefed up the blue line. Number of signings and selections there that would rank amongst the best players in the PWHL. And then the focus was on adding scoring up front after all the work on goal prevention. And that has been the case.
Sapster on Twitter, and I haven't vetted this, but I'll trust Sapster, They have 6 of the top 20 PWHL scorers from last season. If Nurse wasn't injured, it would have been 7 of 20. It's absolutely absurd what they've done. One team has 6 of the top, but it should have been 7
Hannah
of the top.
Miller is a very interesting story. We mentioned her last week. She has played internationally for China.
Yes. Once back in with Canada, was denied entry into the Worlds under the Canadian banner this year. She's got to sit out. She should be Olympic eligible if my math is correct.
So the story here is she played professionally in China.
For 5 years.
And that was enough to
qualify her to represent them.
As a carded athlete.
Yeah.
And so they gave her a Chinese name and she played for the Chinese team.
Yeah. Then, because she developed she was a bit of a late developer, a late bloomer, then she got on the Hockey Canada radar and the PWHL radar and has just prospered. She's been so good. And they wanted her for the Worlds, but she was ineligible. So, but it was by months, I believe. Mm-hmm. She had to sit out for 2 years, I believe. And that was just months away from the anniversary date. So I think she's Olympic eligible. So we'll see.
Anyways, very exciting stuff happening with the PWHL team.
Wouldn't that be something?
Bring in
new
name
hockey
player.
team comes in?
No, exactly. Well,
they could be
I got to say, it's very early days here.
Yeah.
And we'll see what they're going to choose in terms of a team name and a logo and colors and all that. But I got to say, I was very impressed with that press conference they put on to launch the franchise. Kara Gardner-Morey seems like and I know there were some people who watched the women's game a little surprised that she was hired in the GM role. But reading her comments last week, listening to her in terms of what she believes in, how she's going to build the team, it seems like a very solid plan.
Good communicator, it seems, too, right now.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
They've delivered on the plan they laid out. They have some named players here. They have, as Sapster points out, some players with track records in this league in terms of scoring, and you're going to want to score goals and be entertaining, right? You don't want to be a new team trying to win 2-1 games. So thus far, a lot to like there.
The only downside,
and I suspect Vancouver would be an attractive destination.
Yeah,
right, in this league with 8 teams.
The only downside to the women's hockey story right now, and this goes for women's soccer, this goes even for the Canadian men's Premier League, these new upstart leagues, Matt, somebody's got to be shitty. That's the downside, is everybody's excited here and everybody wants to, set the hook in the fans in the early goings of these early young leagues. But somebody's got to be a really terrible team generally.
There's a great story from the United States Football League, which, if you're not familiar, started up in the early 1980s and did become a legitimate competitor to the NFL. It sounds crazy now, but they had Doug Flutie and Steve Young and Jim Kelly and Herschel Walker and Reggie White. They had a ton of players and guys who would go on to be stars and Hall of Famers in the NFL. And as the story goes, they were having a dinner, all the USFL owners and the commissioner, and drinking. Eventually, somebody at the table.
It was who.
Well, no, he was not in the league just
No,
yet.
are you sure?
No, yes,
I thought that's been attributed to him.
So here's the story. Donald Trump did not yet own the New Jersey Generals of the league, but he would. And as these original owners were sitting around the table having dinner and drinking wine, somebody looked over at Canadian John Bassett of the Carling Breweries and said, "Hey, John, you're actually the only guy around this table that's owned a football team before, one of the World League startups."
Montreal Machine?
No, Toronto, what were they called? Norsemen, I want to say, something like that, like the WFL or something. Yeah. Anyways, in the 70s. Is there any advice you can give the group? And Bassett stood up and said, well, gentlemen, we have, I forget, it was 12 teams or 14 teams. He said, well, gentlemen, we got 12 teams, and all I know for sure is at the end of every weekend, we're going to have 6 winners and we're going to have 6 losers. And he sat back down. And the guys around the table were like, what's he talking about? What's he getting at? And what he was getting at is they could blow their brains out spending money. That formula was not changing. the end of every weekend, there was going to be 6 winners and 6 losers.
6 unhappy owners, 6 unhappy fan bases.
And so the idea was, like, let's not get too deep as this is a startup.
Yep.
Because we got to understand that we're only as strong as our weakest franchise in this league. And that's when Donald Trump came to the table, bought the Generals, right? Didn't want to be second rate. We're going to compete with the NFL and started paying huge money for the Fluties and the Herschel Walkers. And the next thing you know, others had to compete. And then next thing you know, the league was not on solid footing.
What you got to hope for all these young leagues is that there's just a little bit of a rotation of who's good and who's bad in the first 5 years, so that everybody gets their taste.
Yes, everyone gets a taste, and we've seen that, right? Because we've had 4 different clubs represented in the finals over the first couple of years. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll see where that goes. Time now for our menu, brought to you by our friends at Greta, a fantastic spot to catch all the games home and away, your steps from the stadium and arena district. But you know what they're even better at? Your upcoming party, whether you got a team building event, a summer sociable, birthday party, check out Greta, the fantastic street food menu, the arcade that encircles the bar, games for everyone. For more info to book your event, go to gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We'll talk to JPAT here, then John Shannon. A little later in the program, the fortunes of Vancouver Whitecaps FC finally dropped one. The U.S. Open in the golf report. And the hottest team in town, the Vancouver Canadians. They cannot lose right now. So that's all coming up.
Hot summer weather at the Nat, and they win every game?
Every game. Every game.
They win all the games.
Guaranteed now.
They might be winning games in other leagues for all we know.
They're going to go on the road here and win a bunch of games. They're going to come home, win more games. Win, win, win. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. I'm going on the basketball game.
It's the only place to go.
Well, I was looking at Gold Cup, but we can go there tomorrow if need be. Look, I think if Indiana is going down with Tyrese Haliburton taking a lot of shots and trying to be the catalyst.
Yep.
The over-under on Haliburton is just 17.5 points. I like the over there. Over 17.5 points, Tyrese Haliburton for Indiana tonight.
I've been chronicling this, so I'm not suggesting this. I'm just chronicling because I've been updating you on this. To get positive action on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the 40-point threshold now.
You've got to bet him over 40?
Yeah. 35 is minus 115. And if you saw him in the fourth quarter in the last game, you know why that is.
The thing is that is a bet to sweat, though, right? Because you're a long way from 35 points when this thing starts.
When the ball tips off.
No, exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
Like Haliburton, conceivably, I could get it in the first half, right? If he has a big half.
Yeah.
Or, he scores 10 or 12 in the first quarter. Going to get it. But 35, 40, that's unbelievable.
And because of that, I can't get too excited about that or anything else right now. I think you've got the other intriguing one right now in terms of Haliburton. So I'll just look ahead to tomorrow and for all of everybody's sanity. Just for the drama, folks, not for any cheering, because I have not declared the Oilers are my team, but for the drama, for the entertainment, for the TV show. Oilers plus 125.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I hope you're right. This started as looking to be one of the amazing Stanley Cup finals. I would like to hope there's another.
Let's still remember it
flurry.
As such.
There's another level that these two can get to. Want to get in on the action for the Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you. Game props, player props, totals, money lines. You can bet the series winner, Conn Smythe winner, whatever your bet. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app. Get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 or older. JPAT, next. Mr. Carson Price from the historic Wall Center. Here's Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter, the host of RinkWide Vancouver, which was busy again this weekend with a couple of games of the Calder Cup Final, Abbotsford, and games that went beyond regulation as well. Good day, Jeff. How are we on this Monday?
Yeah, doing all right. Overtime becoming a thing for this Abbotsford Hockey Club for the last 5. They've won 2 and lost 2, so a bit of a saw-off there. And against all odds, guys, I mean, they were one shot away from pulling off the great hockey heist of 2025. They should be thanking their lucky stars. They're on their way home with a split of this series. They have been outshot badly, outplayed for most of the series to this point. Artur Silovs has been terrific. But if they don't find a way to elevate their game, I do worry that this is going to slide in Charlotte's favor pretty quickly here, because without a doubt, the Charlotte Checkers have been the better team in both of these games. But at the end of the day, they just ask, did you get one more than your opponent? And on Friday night, somehow they did find a way.
42-13 were the shots in Game 2. Abbotsford put 7 on goal in the first period, up against 16 from Charlotte, and then had 6 shots the rest of the way.
Wow. Which
included 4 minutes of overtime as well. And then, of course, on Friday, they give up 50-some shots, and Silovs is terrific again. They are also the beneficiary of one of the strangest calls, one of the strangest episodes I've seen in hockey, Jeff. For those who missed it, the waved off face-off own goal.
Yeah, and look, I've been around the game for a while. We talked about it at length on Friday night, again a little bit on Sunday on RinkWide. But in overtime, face-off to the right of Artur Silovs, everybody lined up and ready to go except the goaltender. They drop the puck, and Tristan Nielsen pulls it back cleanly. Wins the faceoff cleanly back into the Canucks net. And Charlotte's celebrating. They think they've won. The fans are going nuts. And there was confusion on the ice. And it certainly didn't, like, to the eye, even watching from afar on the live stream, it just didn't look right. Something felt a little bit off about the play, but you've got all the officials out there. You would think that they'd kind of go through a mental checklist, whatever the case, puck drops in the back of the net. And then there's this big conference, and the goal is waved off, and carry on, game continues. Now, I will say this much, that the decision by the on-ice officials was made so quickly in the aftermath of all of this that I think one of them must have copped the fact that they messed up, that they made a mistake, and they took ownership of it. Charlotte protested, but at that point, the decision had been made. I think a little bit of it has to be on Artur Silovs. Like, you know, take another sport. If you step into the batter's box, if the pitch comes, you can't tell the ump I wasn't ready. In tennis, if you're standing at the baseline, now I guess in tennis, if you're facing the back wall, maybe the umpire would say, excuse me, we're trying to play here. Whatever the case, it did seem like an unduly length for Silovs to get ready. But the referee 10 feet from the side of the net, like, is his job not to look and assess and make sure that everybody is ready? Like, a lot of people are saying, why'd the guy drop the puck in the first place? I'm going to cut the linesman a fair bit of slack. Like, I think he's focused on getting the centerman squared up. His view is probably blocked a little bit with all the players out there. But that's why there's 4 officials working in a game. And you would think that these are the best of the best at the American Hockey League, that they've worked and earned the right to officiate in a Calder Cup. Whatever. It wasn't a great moment. It's certainly not a good look for the AHL to have to wave off what appeared to be a game-winning goal, but looked pretty good to the Abbotsford Canucks, who carried on, and ultimately Danila Klimovich was able to win that hockey game on a power play. Both the overtime goals in this series, guys, have been scored on the power play. We're 2 games in, and the power plays are 10 apiece in this series. So not necessarily what you'd expect from championship hockey. I'm going to be curious to see if that trend continues as the series shifts to Abbotsford. Now, do they settle down and settle in, or will penalties and power plays continue to be a prominent part of this Calder Cup story?
As I've been saying, I bet you Manny Malhotra tore his center. Who's the center there on that play? The Mueller?
I think I said Nielsen, but I think
Nielsen?
It's
Mueller.
Mueller. Jeff.
But like you gotta tell your center, your job is to make sure everybody is ready. Then you line up for the face-off, right?
As we talked about in the opening block, Ben Lipka, the Abbotsford News, with that terrific reporting that everybody's supposed to go through a checklist of the 4 officials in terms of, okay, is everybody ready? Clock, nets, goalies.
But nothing bad if you take care of your business. If you're the center and you take care of your business, you look around. Is everybody ready on my side? Okay, now we'll go in.
Yeah, I hear you, but again, it felt like in overtime everybody was sort of sluggish. Like it took a while. This wasn't like a speedy face-off. It wasn't like somebody was trying to get the quick draw here. I think there is just an assumption that your goalie is going to be facing the right direction at the very least. I will say this much though, as I sort of went through this in my head and I watched. I've seen the replay a number of times. Like, what are the chances that a centerman pulls the puck that cleanly back into his own net, right? Like you could have that face-off 100 times, but on top of that, guys, the ice on Friday night was abysmal. And I would say, why in double overtime are you as a center pulling the puck back that quickly on your goal? Like you could easily have taken a bad hop and, it could have been a legitimate goal. Game could have ended that way anyhow. So I think something
into the corner. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you don't put yourself in that position to begin with. But it was a wild night. Charlotte scored with 0.6 of a second left in the first period. I thought that was going to be a dagger to put them up 2-1, and then they extended to 3-1. Both of the games on the weekend, guys. One thing the Canucks have done really well. On Friday night, they responded, I think it was 22 seconds after the 3-1 goal and got back to within a goal. And yesterday, after a brutal start for Abbotsford, and how many times have we talked about sluggish starts? And Manny talked about it post-game as well. Charlotte, you knew that they were going to want to respond. They opened the scoring 3 minutes in, and again, a minute later, Abbotsford, sort of against the run of the play, was able to get one, just exhale a little bit and feel that they were back in the hockey game rather than letting Charlotte skate away. But territorially, what is it now? 53 shots is the advantage through 2 games. And to your point, Matt, like 6 shots over the final 44 minutes. They had the power play of their own in overtime and didn't get a shot on goal. They hit a post, but we covered a Vancouver Canucks season where we spent a lot of time talking about a lack of shots. I don't think this is so much on Abbotsford not shooting the puck or having puck possession in Charlotte end. This is Abbotsford being on its heels for most of these first 2 games, and it's all they can do is defend, and when they get a chance, get it to center, dump it in, and get off for a line change. So, Abbotsford at its best is a team that gets in on the forecheck, grinds you down, turns pucks over, and they just haven't had an opportunity to do much of that. Certainly not on Sunday afternoon, and so that's why I say they should feel pretty fortunate that they're in a 1-1 tie, and now they're home for 3, but they're going to have to be a whole lot better here in the home games than they were in the 2 out on the road.
I know Sammy Blais got back onto the score sheet after a long time away, but he's a veteran that is unlikely to crack the NHL Vancouver Canucks or get a contract from them anytime soon. Outside of Silovs, is there any of the young Canuck prospects that are looking good here through the first couple of games?
Not really. Abbotsford's been under siege. And look, Linus Karlsson got his 10th of the playoffs. That's more than any other player in the American Hockey League in the playoffs. But saying that, he's got 2 shots on goal through 2 games. Like, he's been a complete non-factor aside from his power play goal late in the first period. So I look at him and I think there's got to be more just in terms of controlling the game and making things happen and testing the goaltender and all of those types of things. But he just, like many of them, haven't had the puck for much. So, across the board here, they've got to be better. And I just wonder, guys, with 13 shots on goal, including 5 power plays, and I come back to this idea that if power plays are going to be a factor, does that not invite Jonathan Lekkerimäki back into this series?
That's my next question, Jeff, is whether Jonathan Lekkerimäki, is he played his last hockey game this year? You've got to get him back in at some point, no?
I would think so. And again, a difference maker, a guy that's going to control the play, I don't know. But if you get 5 power plays, put the puck on his stick somewhere along the line, all these tight games, like even though they've been outplayed badly, they're in these tight games. It was there for the taking on Sunday. And imagine if they had come home up 2-0. Regardless of what the games looked like, they had a legitimate chance to bring this thing back to Abbotsford with a 2-0 series lead. So Lekkerimäki has been a healthy scratch here for a while. It feels to me like it's time. And again, I'm not expecting him to dominate, but in a tight game, a one-shot game, he's a one-shot scorer that certainly has his up. And go back to overtime, double overtime on Friday night. Danila Klimovich, what does he do? He comes out of the corner, puts a puck on net, right? Like, good things can happen when you get pucks to the net. And look, Klimovich has not dominated by any stretch, but he also has a double overtime winner in the semifinal and now a double overtime winner here in the final. It's impossible to say that he hasn't left an imprint on this playoff push. All 3 of his goals have been game winners in the playoffs. So, I'm not banging the drum for him to stay in the lineup. I think you could make a 1-for-1 swap there, or Manny Malhotra could look elsewhere in his lineup. But yeah, I think it makes no sense whatsoever to leave Lekkerimäki on the sidelines here. When you're down, you need offense. I mean, this guy's calling card, and it's going to be his meal ticket to the next level. So let's see. I think it's time to insert or reinsert John Lekkerimäki.
On the big club, Jeff, are you anticipating a Vancouver Canucks transaction this week?
Not necessarily. And if the week goes by and nothing happens, yeah, I mean, certainly like before the draft or by draft weekend, without a doubt, like 1,000%. If nothing happens before the draft, then something's gone really sideways, I think, in their offseason planning here. But, does it have to happen this week as the Stanley Cup Final is still going on and the American Hockey League Final continues? We saw Anaheim and the Rangers, but really they were the first ones to make any sort of deal of significance since the end of the regular season. So does that indicate a thaw? Maybe, hopefully, because I love trades and nothing gets people talking in hockey like trades. But do I think the Vancouver Canucks absolutely have to make something happen this week? No. But yes, before the draft, Rutherford's basically on a record as saying that he's going to make most of his changes via trade rather than free agency. So we always know that the ground is fertile in and around the draft, even if it's a remote draft and a little different than years gone by. I still think that we're going to see a bunch of GMs play Let's Make a Deal in and around the draft next weekend. Yeah,
and I didn't even really necessarily mean trade. At this point, do you think there's like a 0% chance that Suter and Besser are re-signed? Either?
I'm expecting both to go to the market at this stage. And that's just a gut feeling. Look, I have nothing to report on that, but I think we've come this far that it certainly sounds like Pia Suter is looking for more than the Canucks want to pay him, and at this stage, I don't imagine that's going to change. So what will change? I think the free agent market window opening, Pia Suter testing those waters. And again, I guess I've made up my mind a while back that I just think we've seen Brock Besser in a Canucks uniform for the final time. So I'm anticipating that Brock Besser goes to market, and unless the market craters on him, maybe he and his camp circle back to the Canucks. But I expect Brock Besser to be wearing a different uniform next season.
Are you getting excited about the Olympics with the original 6s that are being released by the IIHF? Quinn Hughes, the Latvian duo, of course, named so far. What do you think, or what do you make of all this?
Well, my first inclination is why? Why now? Like, the Stanley Cup's going to be presented this week. Hockey shoots itself in the foot. Like, a lot of times it'll release the schedule on the same day as free agency or, in that week between the draft and free agency. Like, have they not looked at August when it's Death Valley in terms of news? Like, why couldn't this have happened later in the summer? Why now? Why mid-June? So I asked that question selfishly because I'm a guy that, like you guys, would need some content a little later in the summer. So they could have held off. The other one, I'm curious. I'm not surprised that Quinn Hughes is part of Team USA, and wasn't surprised that Elias Paterson wasn't among the top 6, although the Swedes were interesting to me. Jesper Bratt was the highest scoring Swede in the National Hockey League last season. He wasn't on that list. And Philip Forsberg has been a terrific and consistent performer for a lot of years. He wasn't on their list either, but I would imagine that he'll be on their teams. And Gabriel Landeskog, is he even going to be healthy and able to play?
That's strange.
Like, if there's a spot for him next year, add him at the end, and I got no issue. But why is Gabriel Landeskog, who hadn't played hockey for 3 years, among the first 6 on Team Sweden? I found that one a little bit curious. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think anytime this kind of stuff sort of, jogs our memory bank that, hey, there's going to be Olympic hockey next year. And we're inside a year from that and coming off the terrific success of Four Nations. Yeah, certainly. But as we saw last year with Four Nations, that the guys that are announced early and the ones that are healthy and available and ready to perform for their countries come tournament time, those are 2 totally separate things. Quinn Hughes Exhibit A on that front. So I was glad to see Quinn get the nod, and I know that he probably more than anybody, after missing out on Four Nations, will be chomping to get the opportunity to wear the Stars and Stripes.
Do you expect Elias Paterson to make this Swedish team, Jeff?
I do.
So do I.
But I'm under no illusions that, I think all of this is messaging from the Swedish Federation. He wasn't among the first 6 for 4 nations, and we know that his stock plummeted at that tournament. I still think that the hockey world was expecting some sort of response and rebound in his performance, and the Swedish Federation would be no different there. So I find it hard to imagine that there would be 12 or 13 forwards better than Elias Pettersson, but if we get more of what we've seen over the last 18 months, then all bets are off. Like, there's no guarantee that he's on this team. I think he is a guy that's going to have to make that hockey club, much like he's going to have to make himself better to help the Vancouver Canucks here before he can even worry about the Olympics. But it does kind of go hand in hand that if he can raise his performance for the Canucks, then that should, in theory, go a long way to helping him get a chance to wear the Trey Kroner come Olympic time.
Alrighty, sir. Well, we thank you for this. You've got a busy week ahead because we know we're going at least 5 games in the Calder Cup best of 7.
I was worried. I thought you said we know we're going to go 5 overtimes. And I said, don't go there. Please don't go there. But
you know what this Calder Cup could really use, Jeff, is an extended 4 or 5 period.
Because that's what people want in the AHL.
Yeah.
They
want to be watching their phones.
Hey, I think at least the ice at the Abbotsford Center could probably withstand it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know that Bojangles Coliseum had 5 overtimes in it.
Not so much. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at Abbotsford Center, games 3, 4, 5 of this Calder Cup series. Jeff will catch up later in the week. Thank you.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Secured some price from the historic Wall Center.
We played a father-son tournament with my dad yesterday on Father's Day.
Very nice.
Even then, playing a scramble, still bogeys. A couple birdies, but a lot more bogeys. Got to celebrate those folks. Bogey Juice. Go to bogeyjuice.com. Make your order today on your favorite new summer drink you didn't think you needed, but now you love. Apple, ginger, top shelf vodka. So thirst quenching. Pour it over ice with a little bit of soda. You got your favorite cocktail available in individual size shots as well if you prefer. Use the code SP15, get 15% off.
Did the Price family win?
Did not.
Did Dad suffer you?
Dad suffered me. At the turn, I don't have final score, but I believe we beat the Shorthouse family.
That's good.
They were
That's
also
good.
involved.
Dad's a former Manitoba junior champion, so Dad can play a little here.
Dad's also 78. Yeah, so there's a degradation of the game.
That junior championship was many, many moons ago.
Yes.
John Shannon and his 100% hockey Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. He's the most famous man from Oliver, British Columbia. The former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada joins us now. Hello.
How are you, boys?
Good.
We're fantastic. I was hoping for a better hockey game Saturday.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because in a few of the conversations I have ongoing during the games is now after regaling everybody for 4 games that this was the greatest final in recent history, I'm taking it off the list because Saturday changed the whole dynamic. And I can tell you right now, if Florida is going to win Game 6, if they do, they'll change the same dynamic again, doing it the same way.
For sure. It needs a very big finish now. It needs an Oilers win in Game 6 as well as a terrific Game 7.
Well, here's the thing, guys.
I think it was disappointing on 2 levels. Number one, the Oilers with, as close to a no-show as you can have in a Stanley Cup final on home ice, but also the way Edmonton has lost those 2 games, particularly the game 3 in Florida. They just weren't, hold your attention over 2.5 hours, 60-minute games.
Well, and even if the Oilers win, if it's another nail-biting win as they've won so far, like they haven't gone out and just won a game.
That's okay. Like style points don't count here.
No.
You just got to get wins.
But it's still
this is like your match play golf yesterday. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
This is more like but I'm saying in terms of legacy, if they lose, to your point, John, they kind of will go out with a whimper if they lose this series without really winning a game. That's when style points count. That's when style points count. When you're the loser, wondering how did our season go? If you don't go out and actually just beat the other team in a game, I don't know. That tells you how close you are, I think.
But if Tuesday night's game is another overtime game, then those are style points that you can't beat. And then when you say 4 of the 6 games would be in overtime, so. Do I expect the Oilers to have a better effort in Game 6? Yeah, I do. They will have a better effort. I mean, I shudder to think what the conversation in the room was like, and I shudder to think what the flight to Sunrise was like for them. I mean, it would be arduous to say the least, and they're not going to go all that way and then lay an egg. They're just not. This is their MO. They always put themselves in these precarious positions and find a way to get themselves out of it.
Okay, so answer the question.
I think this team is better than last year's team. And last year's team went to 7.
But they may not. Yeah, I mean, this year's team is better than last year's team, but the way this series is going, I think you could say you're further away.
Okay, so
at least from this year's Panthers team.
Because Florida's team is that much better than last year's team.
So answer the big question everybody's trying to answer right now, and give me the John Shannon pick, and give me what the Oilers will pick: Pickard or Skinner.
I think we both picked Stuart Skinner. I think that I would pick Skinner. He does rebound after being pulled better. I also think that Chris Knobloch would feel better with Stuart Skinner in goal. By the way, I did a poll on my social media account and got 4,000 votes, and it was 80% Skinner, which 80%. Surprised me. Yeah. Which surprised me for those hardcore Oiler fans that I deal with. They're now a lot of people voted and said I don't care because they're off the bandwagon.
Are some Oiler fans becoming Pickard fans?
I saw your poll. I voted Skinner.
I tell you, the roller coaster for fan emotion is, again, this goes back to what Saturday night was for style points. I think the style points for Saturday really put people in a bad mood. That how can they, at home with the Mardi Gras crowd, with everything going on, with 40,000 people inside and outside the arena, and then for them to not even really show up would be shockingly disappointing, and I think that weighed on a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mind you, Florida plays better on the road than they do at home.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Here's one of the things I've noticed here this spring, John, and this guy doesn't wholly believe me, but we went out to watch the game on Saturday. My better half, my brother, my best friend, all expressed interest in going out to watch the hockey game on Saturday. And I assure you, those 3 things do not often happen. We go down to one of our locals. It is absolutely packed. The volume is on. Everybody is watching the game. There is not a single Oilers sweater in the bar, and yet the bar is firmly with Edmonton. I actually think there is a little bit to the Canada's team thing this year. I think it's McDavid root, and I think it's McDavid rooted.
I think there's a ton. I think there's those 2 reasons alone. I think that Connor McDavid does transcend Edmonton. Connor McDavid with what he did at 4 Nations, I think has a lot to do with it. Connor McDavid, who was named one of the 6 players for Canada today. I think that there is something. I can tell you right now in Southern Ontario, this is Edmonton Oiler country. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Even though there are lots of kids from Ontario on the Florida Panthers, this is Edmonton Oiler country. And I do think, I do think that the whole concept of bringing the cup home has had a tremendous influence in that. By the way, Rogers, say what you want. Rogers' whole "this is our game" concept, which is run rampant through all of their programming on all of their platforms, has rung true with a lot of people.
I think so.
Well, it's no surprise to me that it's getting the attention. People want to see Connor McDavid do crazy things. For the viewership numbers, that doesn't surprise me. But, I mean, I've got the exact opposite. I was at a bar watching Game 4, and it was all Oiler fans, all adorned, and it was, they were all speaking with deep knowledge of the Oilers. They were Oiler fans.
Yeah, look.
Isn't Vancouver the largest city from Alberta outside of Alberta?
Pretty much. That is true.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I know 5 good friends that are Oiler fans.
Although more and more are going back these days.
Yeah.
In some cases,
don't go there, Matt. Don't go there. Don't.
I will give you the litmus test of the Okanagan in August, John, because as you know, half of Alberta is in the Okanagan in August.
I can tell you I can tell you right now, though, even 20 years ago, if you had to choose between, and I used to do this in my old job, when you did distribution of what games go which areas of the country. And I would tell you, for the first 10 years that I worked, we would probably put the Toronto Maple Leafs into British Columbia. But by the mid-90s, if we didn't put the Edmonton Oilers into British Columbia, my phone would melt. There are that many Oilers fans in the province. And it hasn't changed.
Oh, well, I mean, my girl's from Prince George. Like, there's a good number of just Oiler fans in PG, right? I mean, they're as close to Edmonton as they are to Vancouver. But no, they started in the conference final. Like, a friend of mine who runs a bar, and it's not a sports bar, said, Matt, you'd be proud of us. We've had these Oilers games on with volume the last couple of nights upon request. And he's like, it's not like I've got a bunch of hockey jerseys in my bar. I just think there's a lot of people out there who are pulling for McDavid. And I think you're absolutely right that the Four Nations thing is part and parcel of it, because we saw best on best international hockey for the first time in a number of years. Help me out with this. Who started the Canada's team thing? Was that you? Was that your crew at Hockey Night, or was that post John Shannon at Hockey Night? When did we start talking about the last Canadian team standing in the playoffs being quote unquote Canada's team?
No, that wasn't us. We actually tried to play it down the middle. In the time that in my last sojourn there, we had the Red Wings, the Devils, the Penguins. We had, but we never really said cheer for a Canadian team. Those were days, though, that there was a good chance a Canadian team got to the conference final. Then we really got hurt when they only went to the first round, and that changed the whole concept after 1993. So. To me, this was all part and parcel of what the corporate speak was for the last 10 years, and finally taking advantage of it. And now knowing that they're going to be on board for another 12 years, I think Rogers is playing the patriotic game at a time when go to your grocery store, go to your car dealer, anywhere, you're waving the Canadian flag, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Okay, so let me ask the uncomfortable question that I haven't really seen floating in any way, shape, or form. Tomorrow night, John, might be the last game before contract negotiations open up between the Oilers and Connor McDavid. Mm-hmm. What does a loss tomorrow night mean for the future of Connor McDavid in an Edmonton Oilers jersey?
I don't think it changes a thing. I really don't. I think the real indication of Connor staying long term happened last summer when Leon signed long term, and I think that their friendship and their relationship and their working relationship is strong enough that had Leon said, "Well, I'm not signing," I think then we would have had a concern for the Oiler fans and for the Oilers that Connor wouldn't go. The fact that Leon is signed long-term tells me that, in my opinion, that Connor's going to sign long-term.
Is that the right choice? He'll be 29 mid-season. They've certainly been to the precipice. Again, we'll assume a loss tomorrow just for the sake of this exercise. Assume a loss tomorrow. He'll be 29 mid-season next year. You put all your eggs into this basket for a dozen years of your career almost. Is that the right choice for the player to keep banging your head against that wall in hopes that you'll get over the horizon?
Well, I think that there's part of it is the competitive side too, and saying, I can't believe we haven't done it, and the job's not finished. We better finish the job. But then you look at the history. First of all, you look at the history of hockey players. Hockey players are very conservative in nature. They love job security, and they hate change. They hate change. But then you look at some of the greatest players of all time that went into 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years before winning a Stanley Cup. Steve Yzerman and Alex Ovechkin come to mind right off the top. Mario Lemieux didn't make the playoffs for the first 5 years that he played in Pittsburgh. So I think that, and I'm not saying that, Connor's looking at the record book saying, well, Mario and Steve and Alex, I'm not going to do it myself. I just think that is in the DNA of hockey players, to stay and get it done. I also think that Connor has built a tremendous relationship with the city of Edmonton, with Daryl Cates, with that fan base, and that arena. And I just can't see it changing. Now, 1988, I didn't see, I didn't see the trade coming either, but the world has changed a great deal since then. I just don't see Connor changing. I think he's committed to the long term there.
I'll say this too. You're right about the relationship.
His coffers are in better standing than Peter Pocklington's.
Yes, that too. But the relationship is. You're right, John. Because guys, I don't think, again, let's say they lost that game tomorrow. I don't think he shoulders much of the blame. I think people go, when are you going to give this team a goaltender? They're going to find other reasons to point to, and I think Connor's going to be well down that list of blame. And there's not many circumstances in sport where one player takes a team to the think about Jim Kelly. I think Jim Kelly got a lot of blame in Buffalo, didn't he? After the first couple.
Well, not Scott Norwood blame, but yes, he got some.
Yeah, he's pretty Teflon, and rightfully so. I think. So.
Hey, John,
listen, we're talking about failure, and they're 2 wins away from winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
but they're the ones with their backs against the wall. So
hey, give me Game 7. I'm all in on Edmonton win Game 6. I want to see another Game 7 between these two, and maybe redeem some of these Oilers' losses in the series at large. John, why are we hearing about Olympic players today?
I don't know. I must admit,
Mike and I were trying to figure it out. They picked today of all days to give us the first 6 on these Olympic teams.
Yeah. Now we all know why they're doing it is so that they're able to put guys in sweaters and guys in merchandise and marketing opportunities. Why it couldn't happen next Monday or the day before the draft or the day before free agency. I don't know what the calendar has to do with it. I must admit I am a little disappointed because all we should be talking about is the Stanley Cup Final. And in many ways you wonder, and it's what happened with the awards as well. The awards kind of got forgotten. And then it was it was a 60-minute road show, which wasn't a bad show. It didn't bother me. It's just, gosh, the news cycle is they've upset the news cycle, and I don't understand why. There must be something between the league and the IOC and the federation that says it has to be named 6 months out or something. I don't know.
Next Monday would have been perfect.
Well, we were wondering whether they just feel like there's a bunch of hockey fans who check out once the end of their cup final. But I gotta say, nobody clusters their news like the NHL and then goes dark for a period of time with not a lot happening. And I've often wondered, I know guys work hard in the industry and they want their Augusts off and things like that, but I do wonder whether they make enough of that 6 to 8 week period after July 1st in terms of news.
Well, and we're the schedules. The schedule used to come out the day after the Major League Baseball All-Star game because it got a lot of attention. There was no other sporting event on that travel day after the Major League Baseball All-Star game. And then they moved it to the draft week. I think it's going back to July again. So from that perspective, I agree with you, but there has to be between now and June 30th, there would have had to have been a better day, a dark day of information that would have allowed us to talk about who's going to the Olympics. And to me, that was next Monday, not this Monday.
All righty, sir. Well, enjoy what's left of this Cup final. Next time we're talking to you, we'll have a champion, and we'll be off and on to the off season. Appreciate this, Sean.
Have a great day, boys.
Secure some price from the historic Wall Center. Extend your game night with a staycation in downtown Vancouver. Book a Secure some price exclusive rate here at the Wall. Call 604-331-1000. Tell them we sent you. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. As we get into the golf report, brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club, 34-year-old grinder J.J. Spawn wins the U.S. Open with the putt of his life on the 18th hole. I mean, you and I had talked a little bit about how men's majors had not had a ton of drama over the last few years. Wow, between Rory McIlroy and J.J. Spawn this year, we are making up for lost drama on the 72nd hole of a major. 64 feet for birdie to finish the only player below par. He beats Scotsman Robert McIntyre by 2 strokes. This after he birdied 17 by driving the green for a one-shot lead. I mean, we thought that would be the shot of his life, right?
In the end, he didn't need the 18th birdie.
He didn't.
But it's a hell of a way to do it.
Yeah, stylish way to win it.
Yeah.
And this after he drives it in the rough on number 1. He had been so solid through the first 3 rounds. He showed all sorts of cracks early in this round. Drove in the rough on 1, made bogey. Then the incredibly bad break on 2, where he hits the flagstick from 100 yards out. It bounces back at him, so he turns a 97-yard shot into a 49-yard shot. Did you see that? Yeah. Oh, my God. So he's got to think, maybe it's not my day, and for more reasons than that, just that. But he didn't let the poor start deter him. He bounces back after that rain delay, a win befitting this guy's career, a win befitting industrial Western Pennsylvania, and type of win Arnold Palmer himself would approve of. A former Canadian Tour record holder from Los Angeles. His mother is an avid golfer. The word is she told the doctor she wanted to play as long as she could with JJ in the womb, played into her 8th month of pregnancy. 2015, he sets the then Mackenzie Tour, now the PGA Tour Canada record for top 10s with 7 and 11 events. He won the Order of Merit that year, Blake, making $91,000. Made $4 million yesterday. And he was up at 3 a.m. yesterday, hitting up the local 24-hour drugstore because his daughter was vomiting everywhere. So there you go. Nearly 12 hours later, he starts his round, shoots 40 on the front, 40-32 to win the U.S. Open. Like, when is the last time the winner of a major had a 40 on either of the 9s? Just an incredible turn of event there, but that was Oakmont. And we talked about it Friday, Blake. You and I both thought they had set it up perfectly, right on that razor's edge. Very tough rough, firm but fair greens, and that held up over the weekend. It was a fabulous golf tournament. I mean, there were so many guys in contention yesterday. At one point, a 5-way tie for the lead.
Yeah, and in the end, I'm okay with I don't like an over par winning score. I like it to be super hard, but I think ultimately a winning score somewhere between -1, -4 for U.S. Open, I'm fine with that. And in the end, it was just the fact that it didn't relent over the weekend. I
think the rain was almost about perfect. Actually, it's kind of what it required to make it a little more.
Because it got pretty tough.
Yeah,
it got pretty tough.
It got pretty tough, but as we know with PGA Tour pros, you give them wet conditions, they can hold the greens. Mm-hmm. They were losing something off the tee. There were some incredibly long approach shots yesterday. At one point, that Carlos Ortiz, the Mexican who was in contention, like at one point he hit a drive like 229 off the tee. because of the wet conditions.
Wow.
And he hit a slope and rolled back. So, no, it was a very, very interesting and worthy test of golf. And hats off to Spawn. He played magnificently.
It's really too bad for Taylor Pendrith, who had a 78 on Saturday.
Yeah.
If that is, so he had 72s the first 2 days. If that's another 72, if he goes 3 straight 72s after 69 on Sunday.
And that's 2 over there. It's a par 70.
Yeah, but he's 5 over, and that would end up have been a T10 for Taylor Pendrith at the U.S. Open.
And poor Corey Connors had a draw
wrist.
yesterday with a wrist injury. Anyways, we'll see if a star is born here. JJ Spawn has played some excellent golf this year. He was the runner-up at the Players' Championship, and I suspect he'll now make the Ryder Cup team. And, he sort of walks and talks and plays like an everyman. Like this is a guy you can feel good about supporting because he absolutely wanted it over a long, 34 years old to have a breakthrough season on the PGA Tour.
Nick Taylor, by the way, the
Fantastic
top
stuff.
Canadian at the T23 and at U.S. Opens. That is his best by a country mile. Nick has had a devil of a time at majors.
Yeah,
he has not done well. So for him to get inside a top 25 for the first time, that is his first top 25.
Yeah.
At a major. His first major was as an amateur at the U.S. Open in 2008, got cut then. But he's played 2, 3, 6, 9, 10, 15. He's played 17 majors. And Matt, he has made the cut at 6.
Well, we've talked about Nick. Like he does have a flair for the dramatic in terms of winning the bigger stops on the PGA Tour. He's won at Pebble Beach. He's won at Phoenix. He won his domestic Open, the Canadian Open, where, of course, all the pressure is on
Good
those.
tournaments, big tournaments.
No, absolutely. The other thing I'll say, I was very...
Sony Open in Hawaii is no slouch
Yep.
either. It's a nice tournament.
It is. Good field, you should.
Yeah.
I will say this. I did find myself rooting for Adam Scott yesterday.
Oh, gosh.
Nearly
That was tough to watch.
45 years old. It had been so long since his last major. But, pressure got to him like it got to so many.
And how about Ryan Fox, the Canadian Open champ, was pretty good over the weekend as well. He ends up tied for 19th, does Ryan Fox. So he's had himself a month, is Ryan Fox.
Well, and, here's the one thing that we've talked about in the ongoing split of men's professional golf. The PGA Tour is still a star-making platform.
Yeah.
And Liv is just not. You can argue Joaquin Neiman. He's a fine player. He's won a lot there. And I suspect if the tours get back together, or he will be a factor at a major at some point going forward. But just week in, week out, you're not producing the stars.
How about Sam Burns with the 78 to finish, too?
Well, that ruling or lack of relief he got with that ball sitting down in the water, and he hits that horrible hook into the rough and makes double bogey, that derailed him.
He shoots a 73.
I saw Brad Faxon.
He's into the playoff.
Brad Faxon was very critical of that ruling. 2 separate rules officials came over and told him, no, there actually has to be water present around the ball. It's not enough for you just to take a practice swing. And he took many and splashed the club down into the low-lying area where that ball was located. I saw Faxon was very critical, saying that was a bad ruling, and I have to concur. When you take a look at how that ball behaved, when you took a look at the fact that he was hitting practice shot after practice swing, and all sorts of water was jumping up off the club face. And look, I understand it's played how it lies, and there's tough breaks and things like that. I just think he could have been given the benefit of the doubt there. The Golf Report brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club, now open for the 2025 season. Taking bookings online for any time during 2025. Lock them in. If you have a group of 12 or more, ask about the Harrison Price midweek specials at the Whistler Golf Club. They'll take great care of you. Of course, follow on social at Whistler Golf, whistlergolf.com/groups. Well, the Whitecaps' 11-game MLS unbeaten streak comes to an end with a 2-1 loss in Columbus. Once again, they gave up a very early goal in this one, second minute, and once again, they answered right back with the JC Ngando goal in the 6th minute. A Tristan Blackman turnover leads to the winner for Diego Rossi. The Crew had 3 separate goals called back due to offside. They went offside 7 times during the game. I mean, it almost sounds like a tactic.
Well, it is. It is a tactic, absolutely.
Tough with all the international players missing. That said, Columbus was 0-4-2 in their previous 6 going into this one. They were playing a 3rd-string goalkeeper. We told you Friday about the issues they had, injury and international duty. Thinning out their crease. Lack of wingers has forced the Caps into a different formation. We saw that last week. We saw it again this week. They'll continue to miss the 5 North Americans. Brian White, Sebastian Berhalter, Jaden Nelson, Aliama, and then, of course, now an injured Sam Adekube. The South Americans are back, Vite and Kubas. 2 points up on San Diego with a game in hand, and that sets up a number 1 versus number 2 showdown at BC Place a week from Wednesday when the MLS schedule picks up again. They're off this weekend for the international play, Gold Cup for Canada. But Vancouver v. San Diego, the expansion side, 1 versus 2 in the West, a week from Wednesday at BC Place. Get your tickets, whitecapsfc.com.
I had outside hopes for Ryan Gauld for that match. I think I had told you a few weeks ago, it's got to be LAFC. Based on nothing, just based on, that's another month, I said,
San Diego or LAFC?
No, I had said for LAFC, but My goodness, would he look better. You got 10 days off now before San Diego.
Yes.
I mean, again, I've got nothing to go on to tell you Ryan Gauld's going to be there, but
we should mention LAFC is the 29th of June in Los Angeles.
Yes, they're coming off of Club World Cup at that point, and I don't even know. Maybe there's a point if they advance in Club World Cup where they would even ask that to be moved. So, I mean, that would actually be good for the Whitecaps, I think, at this point, even though there's really not many windows for them for them to move it to. But wouldn't Ryan Gauld's return just be absolutely perfect timing right now? Not that he's a winger, it doesn't solve that issue, but you can kick guys to the wing potentially, Ngondo and others. So,
yeah.
And Sabby comes back obviously for that match as well. So
he got married.
Yeah,
I saw the tweet from Hart Johal of the Daily Hive on Friday. Brackets wedding, and I'm like, excuse me, Hart, wedding? She's like, his wedding was planned long before he became a Cap, and then of course MLS doesn't play on the international schedule.
He had planned it for
so
the international.
He had planned it for the international break, thinking he would be free and clear. And the next thing you know, he signs with the Caps, and the next thing you know, they got a match that day. So he'll be back.
Yeah, so he'll be back. So there's a little bit of reinforcement there. Hey, they were bound to lose. Like, it was a crazy bender that they were on. And they got that 3 points versus Seattle, which, basically, if you had told people that while everybody's gone, while all those national teamers, Canadian and American, are gone, they draw 3 straight games, you'd probably be like, yeah, I'll sign up for that.
Yep.
And so they could actually lose versus San Diego as well, and that's effectively what they've done because they got 3 points out of those 3 games. So we'll see. They've still got a chance. When we've counted them out, they've come through. You never know.
It's their first loss on the road all season. They were the last MLS club without a defeat on the road. They have but 2 losses all season in 17 MLS games. That is also tops in the league. Their goal differential of +17 remains tops in the league. They are have been tied for straight out wins here by San Diego, and they actually trail Philadelphia in overall wins across the MLS season.
So they got that game in hand, though.
They do have a game in hand over a lot of teams, including their closest pursuers in the MLS West. The Vancouver Canadians simply cannot lose. They sweep the weekend and a 6-game set over Spokane. It is now a franchise record 10-game winning streak.
They were so ordinary to start the year. They weren't bad, but they were just ordinary.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there looking at them early in the year and going, okay, like Nimala's a good prospect, and there's a couple arms, but maybe this is the year that Vancouver just isn't quite as competitive in this league. It should be cyclical, but the C's, all they do is win games, lift trophies, sell out the stadium. They are 1 game up on Everett for first place in the Northwest League, and there is just 3 games remaining in the first half of the season. If you're unfamiliar, the Northwest League awards one of its 2 spots in the championship series to the team that finishes with the best record in the first half, and that team gets home field advantage. So the C's a few wins away from doing just that. 3-2, they won yesterday on just 3 hits. Terrific pitching from Cal Steven, Pat Gallagher, Pat Borders, Todd Stottlemyre. Yucking it up Saturday at the park. Borders gave us a preview of that late last week. Said he was going to have some fun with his old battery mate. They throw out the first pitch. Stottlemyre was tweeting about it all Saturday. Good on him. They win 6-1. And on Friday, that nooner, 5,000 people watched a 15-0 win. You know you're going when you're winning 15-0. They're back home a week from tomorrow for a 6-game set with Tri-City. And we may already know they are going to the postseason yet again, these C's, if they can take care of business this week on the road in Eugene against the Emeralds. Get your tickets, 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. We always tell you, once the summer starts, the kids are out of school, this becomes a much more difficult ticket to get, especially if you want to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So get on that. Get your plan and get out to the Nat. Poll question results from Friday. We asked you watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, where are the Canucks most deficient? The options here were size, speed, skill, other. What won the poll?
Skill.
Correct. Percentage?
50.
42. 30% said speed. 30% said size. 22% said speed. 7% said other. Lots and lots of write-ins here. Yes, we saw all of the aboves. Jim says size for damn certain, so please stop with all the silly Marco Rossi spew. Vancouver Cup says the skill, our puck movement in the O-zone is just brutal. Getting shots through terrible screens and tips, non-existent. Quarterbacking down low and getting open near the net. Forget it. Our only play is Hughes putting on a spectacle. There were lots of write-ins also for ownership. Pucker Glenn says, other smart rat assholes. Is there a better trifecta than Bennett could shuck Marchand? Adding Marchand is like adding the Yoda of rat bastards, but it works. And Viking Canucks says, heart and soul players. They really have very few guys who will lay it on the line.
Yeah. Hey, guys, Bennett and Marchand are great players. They help you win in the playoffs. The problem is they are both going to be asking for a lot of term and a lot of cap hit, and the Canucks cannot compete.
I saw Wyshynski say yesterday that Marchand is just going to be a pure auction. Whoever bids the most is getting Brad Marchand.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That he's getting every dollar this time around.
Yeah. And every term, like,
especially if he wins another
what's
cap.
the term? Like, what is the comfortable term?
What is he, 35?
I think he's 30. He's 30. Yeah. I want to say 37, but
oh well. I mean,
37.
Oh God, is he that old?
Yeah, but he's still disinfective. So, like, did somebody sign him to a 3-year deal
to 40? Age 40?
I'm just saying.
Probably.
Yeah,
probably.
I think somebody does.
Errors and omissions from Friday's program and beyond. We had been talking about Alex Tuch, the big winger with the Buffalo Sabres, who is facing a extend here long-term or we're going to trade you ultimatum going into the final year of his contract. He's a Western New York guy, but we knew his better half at the very least had spent some time here in the Lower Mainland, and thank you to JT on X who informs me, no, Alex Tuch's wife is from White Rock. Should know this, our friend Ocean Park Nancy is taking photos with them down that way.
That's right.
And JT also tells me that the way he met her was she's friends with Shea Theodore's wife, Shea from Aldergrove, of course. So there you go. Alex, happy wife, happy life. Come on here to Vancouver. Could use you.
Well, he needs a little help in that whole transaction.
Yeah. Rutherford, Alvin, go on out and get him. Thanks for listening, joining everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. And keep it local.